Today on the LA Food Podcast, how restaurants are faring in the face of the worst natural disaster in California history. The Palisades and Eaton fires have been raging for more than a week now, dear listener, and the devastation has been beyond anything most of us have ever seen. Restaurants and food vendors have played a huge role in the relief efforts, stepping up in a big way to feed first responders and evacuees, all while staying open to provide Angelenos with a sense of comfort and familiarity during a truly harrowing time. On the podcast today, we're talking to three people who've experienced the fires from different perspectives. First is Matthew Schodorf, the co-owner of Cafe De Leche, whose Altadena location was completely destroyed by the Eaton fire. We talked to Matt about how they're navigating the situation and what we can do to help. Second is Liz Gutierrez of Fiorelli Pizza in Venice, one of the first operations to spring into action to help first responders and evacuees. We talked to Liz about what they're doing and how we, the public, can support restaurants as they carry out this important work. And finally, we're joined by Inclusive Action for the City's Rudy Espinoza to hear about their fundraiser for outdoor workers, aka the men and women whose livelihoods depend on selling goods or executing jobs on the street. From a food perspective, we're talking about taqueros, fruteros, eloteros, and everyone in between. There are so many important things to donate to, but I assure you that this is right up there in terms of helping people who are the most vulnerable when something like this happens. But first, we're joined by Father Sal for a quick chat on one of the best pieces of food writing I've seen all week and a tastefully topical edition of Chef's Kiss Big Miss. I hope you and yours are safe, dear listener. If you need anything, including a volunteering opportunity to channel some of your grief, hit me up and I'll do my best to connect you with the right people. I'm your host, Lucas Servodio, and without further ado, let's chat on. The LA Food Podcast is presented by The Lonely Oyster. Unwind at The Lonely Oyster's Echo Park Night Watch. Did you know that every night is industry night at The Lonely Oyster, dear listener? Stroll in after 10 p.m. nightly for a one-of-a-kind experience designed for the night owls and hospitality pros. Indulge in $12 handshake cocktails, expertly crafted liquid chef concoctions, delicious late-night hot bites, and chef's choice dozen oysters. More than just a place to unwind, The Lonely Oyster warmly welcomes industry professionals, providing a space where like-minded individuals can connect, relax, and enjoy the camaraderie that comes with the late-night scene. Whether you're looking to kick back after a long shift or simply enjoy the vibrant atmosphere, late night at The Lonely Oyster is the perfect rendezvous for those who appreciate good company and great food and drinks. Don't miss this nightly affair and let the good times roll at The Lonely Oyster. Welcoming back to the LA Food Podcast, a man who today will not be getting a quippy introduction, and that is Father Sal. Father Sal, how you doing today, bud?
I'm holding up, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. It's been a wild week since I last saw you. Can you believe I saw you last Monday?
Yeah, man. I remember texting you because we had the news about the winds that night, right? And the next morning I knew you were going to Culver from where you're at in the Northeast, and I was like, yo, your little Fiat's about to blow away in the wind. And turns out there were much more dire threats on the horizon.
Yeah, it has been a completely surreal week. Honestly, I'm kind of at a loss. I don't even really know where to begin. I mean, let me begin with this for you. Where were you when you realized, hey, this is looking serious?
I mean, no, as soon as I remember, I think it was Tuesday night, right, when things started really hitting the fan. And I to be clear, like, me and Emily are safe where we're at. We're in Larchmont. We were pretty close to the Hollywood Hills fire, but for the most part, didn't feel too, directly concerned. But, I was refreshing Twitter and Watch Duty like nonstop till 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Tuesday night. And I was looking at you, man, because Eaton sparked up Tuesday, I think. And I'm looking at you guys, and like I have friends and family in Pasadena, like just checking in colleagues who are all safe as well. But you're just worried about everyone. The anxiety, man. Getting texts from my parents, Emily's parents, like, yeah, it was wild. How about you?
Yeah, it was crazy, as you said. Like, I mean, look, I was at dinner on Tuesday night at Lustig in Culver City, which is unfortunately closing at the end of the month, but it's a really great Austrian spot, which, if you have time to get there in the next couple weeks, I highly recommend it. But, I think my wife texted me at like 6:30 or something and was like, hey, you really need to get home now. And of course, I was at dinner with Abdo and Sharif, and they were both 45 minutes late. So we didn't even get started until late. And, by the time I was on the road home, I think the Eaton fire had just started, and we weren't really sure. I mean, I had no idea how bad it was, right? But then when I got home and I turned on the TV, like, first of all, like, my entire house already smelled like smoke.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's strange, because I just thought that it was the Palisades fire.
Yeah.
And then turn on the TV, Eaton fire, boom. What's crazy to me is just how quickly everything happened. I mean, like, I guess that's the nature of natural disasters, but like, one moment you're having a beer with a schnitzel in Culver City, the next you're like, holy shit, where's my passport?
Yep. Yeah, dude. I mean, the perfect storm of terrible circumstances. And I mean, I know I'm sure you're going to open with this. We of course did not talk last week, and you've been boosting out resources online and stuff like that. But I hope everyone who's listening is okay. I mean, we're doing this so we can bring attention to issues that impact the restaurant industry that we care about. But like, the actual like loss of life,
Yeah,
and home and everything is just like terrible. I realized, I was texting a friend of mine yesterday, because again, we're lucky. Like we are physically okay. Our homes are okay. That's great. But I kind of just realized, wait, I think I've been walking around like numb.
Yeah.
Just like helpless and feeling the grief. I just got back to LA, but of course, love the city. That's why we do this.
Yeah.
And just like feeling totally like that low thrum of anxiety and grief in the background of your mind, is constant. And that's just like us, the lucky ones.
Yeah.
Right. So I hope everyone out there is taking good care of themselves, both physically and financially, whatever. I mean, in terms of your actual well-being. And then also, if you are lucky enough to be safe, don't ignore the actual stress of all of this and the grief of all this, because that's real stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up an excellent point, which is like, we should start this with like a massive caveat, right? Which is like, we are going to be talking about restaurants today and like, their plight in the midst of all of this and everything that they've done. Obviously, like, I don't want to say it pales in comparison, but there's been loss of life. There's people's lives have been completely destroyed. So I don't want people to think that we're ignoring that, right? We're just focusing on the angle that, we're here to talk about, which is restaurants and food, right? With that said, restaurants have played an incredibly important part. It feels like they've very much been at the center of this discussion in a lot of ways, in terms of playing a pivotal role as like community organizations stepping up to literally feed those most in need. Also, like acting as like community sites where people have been donating not just food, but also like goods for drives, right? So it's kind of impossible to tell the story of these fires right now without talking about LA restaurants.
Well, I was going to say, like, I mean, yeah, it's the angle it's what we're here to talk about. And I'm going to, I like to be clear too, like, this isn't going to be, if you're listening, one of those podcasts where like, oh, take a break and forget. Like, let's be honest, man. Like, I podcasts and or entertainment offers an escape from the stress. But I mean, I don't self-identify as an entertainer. I like, and therefore, like, this is not going to be a situation where like, oh, we just want to forget. No, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to be talking about this for a while, because the domino effects here are going to be crazy. And we're going to talk about a couple pieces now, but like that speak to the role restaurants have played. But think about how we opened the year with that first conversation we had.
Yeah,
talking about all the closures, first of all, right, and then two, all the challenges that are facing the industry that hangs on by a thread. These independent businesses. And then to see them, aside from the actual like literal first responders who are stepping up and addressing things, be so quick to run into help, right? To shift and just like forget about the fact that you have like a less than 5% margin business. We're just going to help people. It's inspiring to see.
It's fucking crazy. So yeah, to your point, there's been a lot of food media, obviously, focused on the fires and talking about restaurants. I think every single outlet, the LA Times, Eater, The Infatuation, they've all published great lists of like the restaurants that have stepped up to help first responders. which restaurants are still open, which restaurants have unfortunately been destroyed by the fires, right? All those resources are out there. There's also been like quite a few really good sort of like long reads about like what this, like, I think there was a piece in Eater called like The Kitchen Can Be Rebuilt or something, which I highly recommend reading, but it's more of an emotional piece, right? About how like when you evacuate, maybe you leave, you're like always pan behind, but the recipes stay with you, right? Memories you made in that home and whatnot, those always stay with you. So there's plenty of stories like that to read. But one story that I think really started to unpeel a layer of this discussion, which I've been thinking about quite a lot, and something that you brought up, is a piece from a Substack written by food writer Kush Bouchard. It's called Tap is Fine. That's the name of the Substack. And the article she wrote is titled, "Restaurants were the first to step up during the LA wildfires, but who is taking care of them?" That's something, the thesis of this piece is something that I've been thinking a lot about, and a message I've been trying to like infuse in every single piece of content I've put out there, like on Instagram and on TikTok, right? Which is, as you were saying, restaurants are facing the toughest economic climate they've maybe ever faced in Los Angeles for a myriad reasons that we've discussed ad nauseum. The fact that they are just like selflessly, without question, like running towards the flames, figuratively speaking, to give first responders, evacuees meals without really figuring the financing of how they were going to do that first. I mean, it speaks volumes to the type of people that are involved in the food community, but it really makes me worry, right? It really made me worry. And you can tell from the piece that Kush Bouchard wrote that she's also been thinking about this. Like, who is going to take care of restaurants? Because right now, they don't really have the time to be thinking about how they're going to be scraping by, despite giving all this food away and going the extra mile to feed first responders and evacuees. This may seem like a dumb question, but are restaurants being reckless in their generosity?
I mean, I don't even want to go to that kind of judgment, right? Like, first of all, to your point, it speaks to how deep the posture towards service this is.
Yeah.
Right. Like that this industry carries. And I think it's why I think I'm drawn to it. It's not just like, it's also partly why I think we aim to celebrate, right? And bring awareness here and we're not critics. We talk about this openly, like, because there's plenty of that. There's not enough of just like the flowers for the industry, because they bring the service every day in their day-to-day jobs. And then you see it come to life even greater in a crisis like this, where their first thought is like, take care of the community. I mean, look, some of it, we can note some of it makes sense logistically and financially because they have inventory that they have to spend. But look, they don't, the reality is they ran towards help first.
Yeah.
Care for others versus care for self. I just think I would never call that reckless. I think it's like a beautiful sentiment. And as like the very question Kushbu poses in the piece that we should be asking ourselves, people who don't run restaurants, obviously, but who love them and patronize them. Okay, we're watching them help.
Yeah.
How can we now help the helpers? Right? What do we need? What do we need to be thinking about as people who have the privilege of being safe, right, and having the means to go support these places? What can we then do to help them?
Yeah. And I asked the question, obviously, a little tongue in cheek, right? Obviously, like, I don't personally think it means that they're reckless, but I do think it speaks to how a lot of these folks run restaurants and have learned to run restaurants since COVID. For example, I think Justin Pichatrungzi of Anajac today posted a really interesting post where he kind of made the connection between this situation and how he learned to become a nimble, flexible operator during COVID. I mean, that's what gave birth to Thai Taco Tuesday, right? Which is really led to the renaissance of Anajac Thai and has been one of the most beautiful like culinary births in our city to happen over the last 3 to 4 years. So I think it speaks more to their like nimbleness, flexibility, creativity, but also to your point, like this just need to serve and to step in when like things happen, right? Shaw posed an interesting question in her piece. Where are the big companies stepping in, right? Like there are some companies that you could see stepping in. You know, she named OpenTable and Resy as options. I will caveat this by saying that like some companies have already done some stuff, like DoorDash, for example, and Instacart have like waived fees entirely for the LA area and have done things like that, right? But it feels like that's a drop in the bucket.
Right, yeah. So I'm going to frame the way I would think about it. It's a fair question, right? And not just sure, let's talk about companies for now. If companies in the food industry that are not restaurants, but may have the means to support. I think part of it is we're still learning what the need is for restaurants, right? Like there are plenty of obviously efforts and fundraising and charitable work that's happening for immediate crisis support and all that. But I think and hope one of the things that's going to happen is as restaurants stretch themselves in this moment, we're going to begin learning about what the needs are to fill the back end. And yeah, it's seeing the GoFundMe's and the support, but basically as we learn more about how much these places have sacrificed financially and in terms of labor and so on, there hopefully will be an opportunity for whether it's companies or others to fill in the gaps. But I suspect part of it is also we're learning what the gaps are and also the best methods of hopefully backfilling where the support was, right? But I think it's a fair question. And to your point, I mean, your hat on as a comms person, right? My former hat. Like you could say, well, I don't even like flaming this because it's more cynical, but let's like everyone helping. And yeah, let's not lie. It's like it would be a benefit, in terms of your public brand to show that you are stepping up and not just profiting.
And it's not just a benefit. It's also like reputation protection, because the last thing you want to be is like a company that could be seen as having some sort of responsibility towards the sector and you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs, right? So it is definitely in their best interest. You're probably right. It's probably too soon to know exactly how those companies can play a part. I hope that they're figuring out, but I think part of this is like continuing to sort of like hold their feet to the fire. So I'm glad that like Kush Busha put that out there, because I think we need to continue to do that too, in terms of being like, yo, Open Table, yo, Resi, yo, DoorDash, great start, but where the fuck are you now?
Yeah, and I'm sure, I mean, like, again, optimistic angle here. I'm not taking a moment to like, I'm sure they're having the conversations, right? I mean,
yeah,
hope, but I'm sure they're having it. You almost have to encourage, as Kushbu does in her piece, like you almost have to encourage these restaurateurs and independent business owners to admit, be like, hey, don't forget you. I know they haven't, right? But as Kushbu goes around to the Justins and others of the city and is like, hey, but how are you are you going to be okay? And they're like, I don't care if I'm okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, make sure you tell us what you need to be okay.
Yeah.
Right? Like, make sure you make it known. And they are. They're setting up their places to get funding and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a inspiring thing to watch. And also like the question that I feel myself, and I know you are asking, I'm sure everyone in LA is asking, is like, well, what can we do? What can we do? How can we help? And like,
yeah.
And there's plenty of answers to that question. But, again, for our interest here, we're going to be asking that for restaurants.
Well, let's start there, Saul. What can we do? Obviously, we've talked about like big companies, what they can do, what restaurants have been doing, but what about us as diners? Like what can we do?
I mean, part of it is like, take the moment. We mentioned like during our resolutions, one of my big kicks this year that's gone swimmingly to start has been to cook at home as much as possible. You mentioned this yourself, eat out less. Maybe we actually more intentionally don't do that. Well, not that we don't cook for ourselves, but like,
yeah.
I mean, we made plenty of plans to go out. Let's make more. Let's do and also, put in the effort to identify. I mean, everyone's doing it, but like intentionally go to places that are, sacrificing. Fine, let's go to Anajac, right? Let's go support.
Yeah.
That's one, with our own dollar, and two, as you are doing and as we will continue to do, kind of raising the places where funding is being raised and so on.
I struggle with so for example, I've been urging people to, yes, support the restaurants that have been feeding first responders and evacuees. But then there have been other restaurants, right? Like I think Kismet posted a really vulnerable and honest post on their Instagram saying like, hey, the reality is we can't afford to do that. Like we can't afford to feed first responders and feed evacuees. We can barely afford to just stay open.
Sure, yeah.
I struggle with just pushing people to the restaurants that have been helping, knowing that there are some restaurants out there that want to be helping but just can't. I completely echo your sentiment of yes, I think our resolution to eat at home more has probably gone out the fucking window for a good reason. We should be out there supporting, right? But I think I'd say don't just limit it to the places that have been supporting, because chances are if a place has not been supporting, there's probably a reason why, right?
I would also say, I mean, obviously all of this is contingent on having the means to be able to support, and tens of thousands of people have just lost that entirely, right? And of course they need immediate help. Of course, there are people who work in restaurants who've lost their ability to lost their homes, right? And and there's like those direct crisis supports. What I want to see, like, look, there's the World Central Kitchens out there. We're going to go get our hands dirty volunteering. I wish there was something I could do more for like feeding, helping to feed people in immediate need is like a great place to start. I'm glad we're going to go do that. But I wish I knew how to get my hands dirty to help restaurants too.
Yeah.
Right. Like give my time and my labor, not just my money, which I will happily give to the extent I can. But
yeah. All right, money bags.
It's more. It's like I wish I knew how, and I mean, to the point of asking the question of how to help. I don't know. I don't know what I can do. I don't know what we can do. Right. But I want to know.
I think there are obvious things, right? Like, for example, yes, we're going to go get our hands dirty with World Central Kitchen on Saturday. We urge anybody out there who wants to join us, right? But like, for example, another thing you can do is there's a great initiative that started called LA Community Meals, where you can basically purchase a meal through a restaurant that will then be forwarded right to an evacuee or to a first responder. There's things like that you can do. Also, restaurants need help with like deliveries, right? So if you've got a local like pizza shop or something in your neighborhood, for example, La Sorted's has been asking for volunteers to help them deliver pizzas and things. Like, just slide into the DMs of your local restaurant to see if you can volunteer your car to like go and like deliver food to the people that need it the most. So there's certainly things you can do like that. There is one thing though that I would like to think about how we can help with. And I was inspired by this by a Rahm Emanuel quote that once, I think it's actually a Winston Churchill quote that was erroneously attributed to Rahm Emanuel, but it's a quote that says, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." And what that means is like, when there is a crisis that happens, politicians use that as an opportunity to push a specific agenda item, right? It strikes me that one thing that we often complain about when it comes to restaurants and the challenges that they face are the legislative aspects, and the fact that there aren't a ton of like safety nets in place for if something like this happens, right? Restaurants are often the first to suffer. We're already seeing the ramifications. The Ruby Fruit in Silver Lake, right, just announced that they're closing because the blow from the wildfires, seeing their sales dip 1 week, literally 1 week, was enough to force them to close their doors, right? I think that's sort of in limbo now. I think they're finding ways to maybe stay open, but still, a very scary thought that that's how close to the edge some of these restaurants are. I wonder if we can maybe connect with like Independent Hospitality Coalition or something to figure out a way to like really advocate for some sort of safety net for restaurants. I think one thing we've seen is like restaurants are more than just small businesses. They are part of the community in a way that so many other businesses just aren't. Like the ability that they have to mobilize in emergency situations, I think alone should qualify them for some sort of like, state relief fund or something like that, right? I don't exactly know what it is, but to me, that's one way we can maybe put our heads together to try to help, is figuring out how this is an opportunity to go to the people in power and say, yo, you just saw how impactful these restaurants are. Let's figure out a way to give back to them.
So, I mean, certainly would be interested in learning. I can't, for day job reasons, I cannot overtly say I'm going to advocate one way or the other for anything, of course. But I mean, at least learning and having the conversation is a good one. And the thing is, like, this is like, it's impossible to triage, right? Like that's the feeling of anxiety and grief. Part of it is like, man, where do we begin? And there's obviously, yes, the immediate need, housing, food, support and all that. But also, let's not forget, restaurants are part of the community. They're also places where people are employed.
Yeah.
And if people lose jobs because these places close, that's going to exacerbate the crisis of that is facing the city as a whole, right? You have there are people who are immediately impacted by the fires, people all over, right? Like it's not just the Malibu Palisades. I mean, it's no matter how well off you are, it's devastating to lose your home. And it's not just people who had coastal properties who may have been relatively well off. I mean, Altadena particularly, much more, I think, middle class and also Palisades, by the way. What that makes you realize is that there's the first order effect of fire. And then there's going to be the second order effect of how this affects maybe restaurants first or others. I don't know. I don't like saying even first, but affects the businesses that may not be able to survive as they're helping out or as their business is being impacted. And then those jobs get lost. And so yes, at least, I mean, we have a particular interest here when we have these conversations. And you're exactly right, whether it's a legislative and public solution or personal solution, volunteering and money. I love the delivery idea, by the way. I'm totally going to look into that. right? Like donating my car or my time in that way. But like seeing what we can do to help out and support, and I totally would be interested in learning what the opportunities could be given the crisis to provide other kinds of solutions.
Maybe our friend Eddie Navarrete will be expecting a call to come on the podcast here in coming weeks. Look, you mentioned it, but the other story I wanted to quickly zero in on is Meghan McCarran's piece in the New York Times titled, "In one of LA's richest zip codes, food service workers also lost their homes." And she's talking about the Pacific Palisades, where, of course, we've heard a lot about celebrities losing their homes. But Meghan's piece sheds light on a different aspect of the destruction, which is the fact that there are plenty of like more lower income spots where a lot of food service workers live that were also burned down.
I mean, it's an important thing to point out, right? It's something that like it makes you can understand why, from a media perspective, the kind of wealthier celebrity face is part of it. I think part of it that is because these are people who you assume are safe no matter the situation, and they're not. And also, mobile homes are lost in the Palisades, right? And those people who do work at restaurants and bakeries lost their homes. More middle income retirees, right? Like, and then in Altadena, like I mentioned, the piece, I wish she had mentioned Altadena in this piece. I understood the angle that she was taking, like, hey, the Palisades isn't just the like a certain kind of income and folks. And she could have expanded it over to the east side and others and the valley, right? Where everyone needs help, but this is not about like saving high income, like homes and properties who need help too. There's also people who are everyday people who work in restaurants, who work in the community, who work at nonprofits, right? Who have lost their homes as well. And let's not lose that in the overall narrative, right?
And I think and look, I think she talked to like somebody who works at Petit Grand Boulangerie, right, which is on the west side, but it's nowhere near like the places that were actually impacted by the fires.
Yep.
But to me, it was just like a reminder, like, yo, let's move about the city with like an extra ounce of like grace and just kindness and compassion for people, because you just don't know how, no matter where you are in the city, no matter what restaurant you are, no matter who you just don't know how they've been impacted by all this, right? And it's just like, in case you needed it, this is an extra call to empathy to me. It's like, you just don't know.
And it's a good reminder that empathy should not be limited to crisis, right? The crisis reminds us, right? But
yeah,
restaurants could have used that, and people who work at them could have used that same empathy a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10. And it's part of the reason why I'm proud of the way that we, I think, try to talk about the food landscape in LA and more broadly.
Yeah.
And I hope it carries forward, right? Like these are places that deserve to be celebrated and remembered no matter what is going on.
And look, man, I think sometimes situations like this can be a big wake-up call. Restaurants deserve that kind of empathy and compassion all the time. I think we are unfortunately going to see an acceleration of closures in the upcoming months. Like, it's fucking terrible to say, but like, we were already expecting that given the like horrible circumstances. Literally, I just spoken to somebody about this like generational closure of like all these epic restaurants like Gorilla Tacos that just hit us at the start of January, right? January is already a notably like difficult month for restaurants, where they expect to see their like profit margins hit significantly because everybody's on their like dry January bullshit or whatever, just like trying to save money or like not go out to eat as often, as we also said.
Yep.
And so this is unfortunately going to accelerate stuff. But, I do think sometimes these situations serve as like highlighters for who are the most vulnerable like people in our society. And from a business perspective, it really doesn't get more vulnerable than restaurants right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like it did with COVID too, right? Like similar, I mean,
yeah,
but you're exactly right. And it's funny, I want to like say it again. Like we're here to talk about how people can help, how we are trying to figure out how we can help. But if you're listening, you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You got to take care of yourself, right? Like first, and you have to, and don't ignore that if you are like if you have the luck and the privilege to have escaped unscathed to date, by the way, this is an ongoing crisis
for sure.
But let's not. I don't want to suggest don't want to suggest that we are ignoring that as well. I mean, take care of yourself, and if you take care of yourself, you can take care of others. And here's how we can maybe think about taking care of this industry that we love.
Yeah, it's what it's the analogy my therapist always gives me about the, you got to put your mask on the airplane first before you can help others, you know? So you're welcome. I pass that insight forward to you for free. Look, Saul, do you have time for a very tasteful edition of Chef's Kiss Big Miss?
We could do it. Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
I promise you it's going to be tasteful, and I'm going to start you off with an easy one. Detroit Pizza Depot and Pie Trap Pizza, among others, have called out folks for taking advantage of their free pizza for first responder deals. Saul, is taking advantage of restaurants during this time a chef's kiss or a big miss?
It's unsurprising, but like as soon as you saw all the free meals going out, you're like, well, people are going to take advantage. But that's not the moment, right? You do. A colleague of mine said this. Like, you do see the best of humanity in the crisis, and also you do in some ways see the worst. And I think there may be worse things than going to get a free pizza. But don't do that.
Don't do it if you don't need it. I love it. Okay, I think you got the first one right. Next one. A new effort has been launched, which I just nodded to, called LA Community Meals, which gives people the opportunity to easily purchase a meal from restaurants that will go to benefit a first responder or evacuee. We'll post the link in the show notes. But Saul, is this a chef's kiss or a big miss?
Kind of exactly the idea that we were talking about at the top, right? When we were talking about who's taking care of it's just a good solution for making sure that you can cover both bases, right? Where restaurants who are jumping in to help are providing a service, but you can also make sure they're getting compensated for it. Great shout. Looking forward to participating.
Multiple chef's kisses, it sounds like. This is a story that I just want to draw some attention to because it's kind of interesting. Mona Holmes wrote a story for Eater on Good Neighbor Bar, whose owners Randy Clement and April Langford sprung into action by offering to help Altadena evacuees figure out if their homes were still standing or not. Basically what they did is they used the software they use for delivery, like on their trucks, to input the addresses of all the folks that didn't know if their houses were still standing, and basically went house to house to house to house to report if those homes were still standing. Is this service a chef's kiss or a big miss?
It feels so stupid to be doing this in this structure. It's just cool to watch people come up with solutions for needed problems, right? Like this, right? Like, because I mean, that's exactly part of the thing as you're texting folks who have evacuated from, in my case, it was mostly that Altadena, Pasadena area, who had left, and they were like, I just don't know the deal. I just don't know.
Yeah.
There's at least that. I mean, that could be good or bad news that you get, but it's a service to go in there and at least try to clarify what's going on, because one of the worst parts of last week was like not knowing. Just like not knowing.
All right, two more quick ones. Bill Addison, famous food critic for the Los Angeles Times, published his review of Camellia, the Arts District Bistro, on Sunday night. Saul, is this timing big chef's kiss or big miss?
This is a weird one, man.
I have thoughts.
I want to hear your thoughts. I mean, I can't say. I mean, Sunday was. Wait, no. This is this past Sunday.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, for some reason I was skipping ahead to last Sunday, or I think it was 2 Sundays ago. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm a little bit torn on it, right? Because I feel like, so for the first few days of the, fires, like all of social media was just flooded with like fire content. Mm-hmm. And then slowly you started to see some people like return to like business as usual, mostly like food influencers posting their like regular content, right? At first, it left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, okay, well, like, how can you, like, who gives a shit what you think about this, like, bakery, like, when everything is, like, going up in flames, literally? Like, read the room a little bit, right? And I'm torn on that because I do think a lot of these influencers, like, literally, it's what they do for their job, right? So, like, they need content to post. I don't like the whole purity test of like, oh, you've got to be saying the exact perfect thing at the exact perfect time or you're a horrible person. I don't think that's true, right? But this just felt like a little bit like read the room, LA Times. Like, let's just hold off on this. They're doing such great content coverage of the fires. I don't know that we need like this review to drop in the midst of all this. Also for the restaurant, right? Like, this can be a huge boon for restaurants. I feel like it's not going to be the most read thing on their page, so therefore it's kind of a missed opportunity for Camellia themselves. So I'm going to give this a big miss.
Yeah, and well, plus on top of that, the stress of seeing a review if you're a restaurateur, just like that anxiety, right? So yeah, I get where you're coming from. At the same time, to the very point about like taking care of yourself, part of that is business as usual, right? Like I said at the top that this is not going to be like every podcast. Like I listen to my sports podcasts or whatever, and all of them, especially those that are based out of LA or the entertainment ones in particular too, which are talking about a very impacted industry as well, are like, hey, like this is terrible, but we want to give a reprieve with our conversation or with business as usual.
Yeah,
and there's of course it's necessary too. Like there's I think business going on is important. At the same time, a review of a restaurant in the city, whether or not it's good, just is maybe not the move.
Final one, fellow podcasters Air Jordan raised $23,000 for wildfire relief this week. Saul, is this a chef's kiss or a big miss?
Well done, boys.
Okay, we're getting a chef's kiss. This is good.
What do you? I mean, look. Yeah, and I got like it's good. It's good. Good. Like do your part.
I was just trying to like make some peace happen here, but like by extending kudos. And in completely unrelated news, I'd like to announce that I'm donating $24,000 of my own personal money to wildfire relief. No, seriously, kudos to you guys. And yeah, it's just been really, really heartening to see everybody in the LA food scene come together and do so much to give back. It really shows like this is a scene made of some pretty great people. So we've got some interviews coming up. First up, we got an interview with Matt Schodorf, who is the co-owner of Cafe De Leche, which is my local coffee shop in Highland Park, but they also have a location in Altadena, which unfortunately they lost in the fire. So we're going to be hearing directly from Matt about that experience and how we can help. So that's coming up right after the break. But in the meantime, I just wanted to say thank you to you, buddy. And in the spirit of taking care of yourself, please take care of yourself.
Doing my best. I mean, look, yeah. You too, man, and more importantly, anyone out there who's been directly impacted or has friends or family who have been. Hope you're doing well.
Dear listener, I made a deal with my wife. She let me start a food podcast and eat ungodly amounts of noodles, pizza, sandwiches, and more under two conditions. One is that I never utter her name. The other is that I find ways to be healthy outside of my work in food. Being the fantastic partner I am, I found a few ways to up my health game. I exercise almost every day, I try to sneak in salads for lunch whenever I can, and I only ever snack on healthy foods. The macadamia nut has become an essential part of my daily routine with the best omega-6 to 3 ratios in the nut game, 8 times better than pistachios and 20 times better than cashews. At houseofmacadamias.com, they've got a bunch of different macadamia products that you can enjoy, like savory and sweet snack packs and chocolate-covered snack bars. One of the problems with macadamias I've found is that they can be expensive, but I'm solving this for you, dear listener, because as of today, all you've got to do is head to houseofmacadamias.com and use code LAFOOD to get a 10% discount on a healthy snack that also happens to be delicious. So what are you waiting for? Head to www.houseofmacadamias.com/discount/LAFood and go nuts.
Hi, my name is Matt Schodorf with Cafe De Leche.
Matt, welcome to the LA Food Pod. First, let me say how sorry I am for what you and your staff had to experience over the last week. We were just talking before we signed on, but Cafe De Leche is a very special place to me. It's my local coffee shop in Highland Park, and I just can't believe that the Altadena location is no longer with us. For our listeners who are maybe unfamiliar, can you tell us a little bit about Cafe De Leche?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me today. We really appreciate it. Cafe De Leche, we've been in Highland Park for a minute. My wife and I met there, and we started the cafe in 2008. So we've been a little longer than 16 years, and it's been a rough week. We opened Altadena almost 9 years ago on Lake Avenue near Altadena Drive between Altadena and Mariposa. We were one of the first specialty coffees in Altadena at the time. Well, first one. Yeah, then we found an incredible community there. that section of town, I mean, it's between us and the mountain. I mean, it's not far. You can walk to the mountain from there. You know, it's like the edge of LA. It's not technically LA, but it's county of LA, right? Unincorporated LA. The west side has the ocean. It's just the edge. You know, I often say, like, Southern California, you drive in almost any direction, it's just like car dealership, mini mall, apartment building, over and over and over again. You don't know when you leave one city and you come to the next, but like there's an edge. You know, you come up to the edge, and the edge of LA, Altadena is the edge of LA. It's just it comes up and there's wilderness, you know? And so it's a smaller community there. We don't generally have people come in. We do, which is kind, but we generally, like most coffee shops, have folks that live close. Like you said, you've been to our Highland Park shop a bit, right? And it's because it's down the street from your house, you know? So it really served that immediate community in Altadena. And we have a couple of cafes, and we're really grateful for all the support we receive across everything. But Altadena was our most popular cafe. It was how we made most of our living. It just had such an intact community there that is unlike I've ever experienced anywhere else.
That's what we've heard a lot, from the news coverage, is sort of like the real togetherness of the Altadena community. I mean, obviously in the wake of the fires, but also leading up to it, it feels like it's really devastated what was a really vibrant small town.
Yeah, and it's such a good mix of folks, you know? I mean, it really is. You know, all of LA is great. That's what I love about LA, is the mix of people, you know, but Altadena is a really interesting mix of people. Like it has mansions down the street, like Wrigley family, like old school Great Gatsby kind of mansions, right? And then every once in a while someone will come down the street on a horse, you know what I mean? And there's a really strong artist community there. And obviously like a really, really strong African American community historically there for one of the larger areas that thriving Black communities in LA. And there's like a lot of young families that are coming up there now, and Hollywood folks, or people that work in the industry, and there's a large Armenian community. And it's just like it's such a great wonderful mix of people, you know. And a lot of them walk to the shop, you know. Our parking wasn't that great, and it's just, I don't know, there's something special about being able to walk to your local and hang out and see the regulars, you know, and our everyone that worked with us, you know, our coworkers, our employees, they knew everyone's name, what their drinks were. I mean, that's not uncommon in coffee shops, but it just really, you go there on a Sunday morning, man, the place was just firing on all cylinders. It was really something, you know?
Yeah. It's a huge loss. Now, I want to hear a little bit about sort of your experience dealing with the fires. I mean, take me back to Tuesday night. Where were you when you first started to hear about the fires?
Yeah, so I mean, I remember a big wind. I don't know, maybe you can help me with the timeline. I remember when my kids were young, they were in elementary school. My daughter's in college now. She's home visiting from college right now, and my son's a senior in high school. But I remember them being in elementary school, and there was a really big windstorm. So 10 years ago or something, in that ballpark, maybe a little bit more. And it took down a lot of trees, and there was power out, and there was a lot of, there was damage and discomfort in the city, in and around Pasadena. We live in Highland Park. We're about 20 minutes from Altadena. And so we anticipated something like that, you know? And so we went up Sunday night around 9:30. It was my wife and I, my wife Anja, and our concern was the patio. We have a little patio that's, that's kind of the heart of our shop, and things are blowing around. Umbrellas are blowing over, furniture's flying around, plants are knocked over. So we went to kind of try to secure everything, hoping the roof didn't blow off the place, and that we had power the next day. And while we were there, we saw the fire in the hills. I mean, we had heard about the fire in the hills, but it was the Eaton fire, Eaton Canyon. If people are familiar with Altadena, Altadena is kind of like a long, skinny, like I said, it's like the edge of LA. The mountains are up here, and then there's Altadena and this long, skinny strip. And then below it is Pasadena, and then like the freeway, right? So Eaton is, people will probably correct me, but more like eastern-ish Altadena. We're more central on Lake, and then there's West Altadena, right? Like coming up Lincoln. So it was in Eaton Canyon, which isn't far away, but I would say like more than a mile. And it's in the mountains, and you're thinking like, oh man, that's tragic. I mean, someone's home. There were some houses right up against the edge there. They might, there might be some possible, damage to homes and stuff. But we didn't in a million years think that it was going to come our way. Like we watered down maybe there could be some embers or something. We watered down the patio. We sprayed the plants. My wife watered down the front of the cafe. But we didn't take anything. I took a stupid Christmas tree that I had forgotten to grab last week from the holiday decorations. I was like, why is this thing still here? That's the only thing I took. I didn't take anything. We had some friends that lived between us and the mountain, and we stopped by and saw them, and they were a little more concerned because they're closer to the mountain. But again, they were like right above us, just off a lake. And they were like, oh, we're evacuating to be safe, but they didn't really, I'm sure they had a little more concern, but when we spoke to them, it didn't seem like they were overly concerned that the fire was going to come that far either.
Yeah.
So that was it. We watered down a little bit and we left. And then, I didn't sleep well, woke up 5 or 6, and I said, we should really get up there and just see, what's going on, and try to assess the situation, see if there's, and we should check out the shop. And so it was my daughter, our daughter Penelope, and my wife and I, and we drove up, and we came up the west side because it's on the east side. We're going to come up Lincoln, cut across Altadena Drive, and then drop down into the shop. And above Woodbury, there's like large chunks of flame dropping onto the street. There's houses on fire right and left. And then McDonald's was burnt. It was bedlam. It was like, there's no control. There's fire trucks here and there. There's cops here and there. It's madness. And we couldn't get, I don't know, there's a Super King Market, I think it's called, or Superior, there past the 24-hour fitness, and we couldn't make it a whole block up. We turned around. It was just like chaos and just black smoke. So we cut across Woodbury, and we see at the end that Lake is chaos. So we can't come up Lake. So before Lake, I hang up, I think it's Christmas Tree Lane, with people familiar with the area, which is a bunch of overhanging trees, but there was nothing really happening there. But on Woodbury, we saw a car that you couldn't tell it was a car. It was about 3 feet off the ground. You saw a couple rims, and that was it. It was like a pile of black rubble. I mean, it had been incinerated and sitting in the lane on Woodbury. It was just chaos. And we go up. So I go up, and I think that's near the Altadena Library. We get on the Mariposa, which is we're between Altadena and Mariposa on Lake. I think I went a block, and it was just opaque. Like, so it's 7:30 in the morning. It should be light. The sky is black. I can't see a half a block down the road. There's embers just dropping onto the street. And, I got my daughter with me and my wife, and we turned around.
Of course. But at that point, you didn't know if you still had a business or not, or because you weren't able to get close to it, right?
So this is what I'm saying about like playing stuff over in your head, Look, I all of this stuff I say, when people lost their lives, there's like 12 people confirmed dead at this point, I think. Lots of people lost their homes. I'm sure people lost their homes. I know lots of people that lost their homes. I hesitate to be, this is our livelihood, and it is significant, but we didn't lose anything compared to a lot of people. I hesitate to when, what. I think I could have probably saved it then. I think if I pushed through that smoke, we could have, but I mean, whatever. Then you could get in this stupid situation, and you could get hurt. It's like, it probably was wise that we turned around, but if I could replay it, I've seen a couple of videos on Instagram. People have posted that we were still there. I don't know if exactly at that moment we were still there or not, or if we were on fire, but it was probably within an hour or two we were gone, I would say. We went home, of course, just like craziness. You can't think of anything. I go to Highland Park and just start working. We were busy. We were open. Everyone else is closed. We don't close. We didn't close during COVID. We didn't close. We just stay open. Unless anyone's in immediate danger, we stay open, because it's like, I'm not trying to put anyone in danger. I wouldn't put my staff in danger, but it's also like kind of cathartic for us to be able to do something, to actually be open. And also the community comes, people come like, thank God you're here. We just want to be able to talk, and people want to talk and they want to gather, and that's what we do. Not everyone does that. Totally understand why.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense to like, hey, let your staff stay home, whatever. We generally stay open during these things. We were open and I was able to work, and it just allowed me to kind of point in my head in one direction, because I could not, obviously everyone's like scrambled. My daughter sends me something she sees on Instagram that the fire department posted, that there's a fire department right behind us, 1 block behind us, like half a block essentially, like behind us, and the fire department's on fire. And so when I saw that, I was like,
yeah,
that's there miracles can happen, but it's probably not good. And I don't know, I did some other stuff, and I went up there at, I don't know, 1 p.m. or something. Again, completely, there was no roadblocks, anything. I drove up, I don't know why, because I was coming from Pasadena City College. We have a shop at Pasadena City College. I was coming up that side, so I kept more of the east side, thinking I was just cut over early, but I just kept going up and up and up, and you just go through, they just decimated, just like all over, just fireplaces. That's all that's left. A fireplace. That's it. You just see a fireplace and smoldering and fire, and oh my God. And I cut through there and got back to my shop, because they had kind of cut off part of Lake, but you could go up any of the side streets. And so I saw it, and thank God I did, because a lot of people haven't been able to see. I think some people still don't even know what's going on, in their spot, their home, their business. And I sent you the picture. I saw it with my own eyes, and it's like, it took me a second to recognize where my place was, and there's not, we've had a lot of really generous love and support, and people reaching out and, hey, what can I do to help? And we'll, help me, let me know if you need to help pull like old equipment out of there or something. I'm like,
there's nothing left.
There's nothing more than 36 inches off the ground. Probably 2 feet. Everything's melted. It's all gone. There's nothing at all there. Zero. It's amazing how hot that fire was.
I'm so sorry. When you were saying, I think I could have saved it. Look, I think you did the right thing by turning around there. We've seen so many stories of folks trying to, save their property and it not ending well for them, right?
It was the right decision. But you also hear about the people that did like take at it with the hose, and they saved their homes. So one of our friends did. One of our friends stayed behind, probably unwisely, but he saved his house. He lost his like outer, like a garage and some other stuff. But he saved his home.
Wow.
And not to say that it wasn't the right choice. I think you're right. It was the right choice, and we will be rebuilding.
Yeah.
And we will come back, and we will survive. But it's hard. It's just like if you've ever been in a car crash or something, you just keep playing it over and over and over and over and over again in your head. It's just the way you were built mentally.
Yeah.
To be, what about, can I change it this time? What if I didn't think about it this way? What if I didn't think about it that way? That kind of thing.
Yeah. You're obviously thinking about it from your perspective of this is my livelihood, and I have a staff and all these things, as a business owner, like what do you do in this situation? What have your days been like since then, in terms of like, you say we will rebuild. I'm assuming it's probably too soon to even know exactly what that looks like.
No. I don't know. Like that's just, day 1 was me seeing the place gone. Day 2, I called my architect.
Yeah.
Day 3, got hold of the general contractor. Right now, I'm sitting in the back of my car in the parking lot in Arcadia at the building and safety. Contacted them this morning, I had my architect give me a list of things to ask them about rebuilding. Our space is very small. It's on a really tiny lot. It was built in the 1930s. There's a lot of stuff that you wouldn't be able to build today. There's no parking. There's a lot of red tape that could come our way to rebuild. And as of an hour ago, it's Monday, January 13th, at about 10 a.m., they said that we could rebuild if we rebuilt it the same way it was. And they said we wouldn't have the issue with parking. And they said that we would be able to, as long as it's you just do what it was, and you don't try to get fancy, and you don't try to make it taller, and you don't try to make it bigger, and you don't try to do anything else. just bring it back the way it was, then we have permission to do that. Stacy over at Public Works said this.
Wow.
So I hope they're good to their word. And I ask, how do we get in line for site plan? Because obviously this place is packed. And again, most of these people have lost their homes, and my hearts go out to them. And I'm not, you always hesitate, right? Because I'm not trying to jump the line, and I'm not trying to make anybody else, I understand that a lot of people are suffering more than we are. We do have a livelihood. It's just significantly reduced,
Yeah.
My sales were down, I have Square, and they send you those little reminders all the time. This is what your sales were versus last week. On Saturday I was down 60%.
Wow.
It's hard to sustain.
Well, you have employees, you've got, you got costs, you got a family too. I mean, yeah, it's, I know you say you still have a livelihood, but that's a massive hit.
Our employees, we set up a GoFundMe with the help of my sister-in-law, Abilene, set this up for us. We've had a lot of support from our friends and family. I couldn't think straight. She set that up for us. It was amazing. We've raised a good chunk of cash for our employees. Well, I mean, good, relatively speaking. It's for our 6 main employees. We've had some of our employees come and fill in shifts and stuff, but we had 6 main employees in Altadena. Hopefully a couple of our employees actually lost their homes, and obviously none of them have been able to work this during this time. We're trying to bring them into the other shops as much as possible. The ones that want to stay with us, some of them was just a really traumatic event and they want to move on, which I completely appreciate. We just want to help our people, because when we talk about the shop, when we talk about the community, when we talk about Altadena, I go back to like, hey, they knew everyone's names and stuff. That is why people came. That is why we have guests. That is why it existed, because of our people, because of our, I mean, I hate the term employees. But they're my coworkers, the people that I work with, they are the reason we existed. So
yeah,
we want to help them as much as we can. Again, we're financially strapped a little bit right now, but anyway, the point is there's a GoFundMe and hopefully they'll get a little bit of help, which is good.
Well, Matt, I did want to say thank you for joining us. I mean, that answer perfectly segues into the final question, which I think is, how can we help? I mean, obviously there's the GoFundMe, but how can the public help, and folks who are interested help the situation over at Cafe De Leche, but also, anything you've seen in general that could be helpful to the community of Altadena?
Yeah, I mean, if you can give to the GoFundMes of any of the people, of our neighbors in the community. I mean, it's hard. There's so many now.
Yeah.
That's really great. If you do want to help our business, I think we're a lower priority than the people that don't have a home. I have a place to sleep tonight. But it is by supporting our business. So stopping by, we have a shop in Highland Park. We're on campus at PCC. We have a space in Hollywood in Ovation, which is kind of like the tourist area, Hollywood and Highland. But ordering coffee online. We're a roaster. We're a coffee roaster. We've been roasting coffee for quite some time now. We roast in-house. We roast in really small batches in our shop in Highland Park. We're really proud of that. We have direct trade relationships with producers in a lot of different countries from farms we visited. We were just in Oaxaca not long ago. We were in Guatemala right before the pandemic. My wife's originally from Nicaragua. We have connections with farmers in Nicaragua. I've been to farms in El Salvador. I've been to Ethiopia. And we get to hand select the coffees in these places and roast them in Highland Park in like 10 pounds at a time, like really small batches. And so you can order that coffee online and come in and grab a bag, or we ship nationally. So if you just go to cafedeleche.net, buy some coffee for a friend or for yourself, that's probably the way you can support us the most.
Well, thanks for all you do, Matt. As I said, it's my local coffee shop. I could smell you guys roasting the coffee every morning, and it really makes the neighborhood. So
dude, yeah, yeah, when it starts, the chaff comes down. Yeah,
it's special. So it's like the chaff snow right there on York. And it's a special part of the neighborhood. And I'm so sorry for what you've had to go through. Thank you so much for coming on to speak with us. We're gonna post everything in the show notes so that people know where to donate for the GoFundMe and also know where to support Cafe De Leche. But I just want to say thank you again.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and thanks for helping getting the word out and supporting small businesses, especially during this time.
Thanks to Matthew Schodorf of Cafe De Leche for coming on here and sharing his story with us. As I mentioned, all the links to Cafe De Leche and their GoFundMe are in the show notes. Coming up next, my interview with Liz Gutierrez, one of the owners of Fiorelli's Pizza, which was one of the first restaurant operations I saw jump into action to feed first responders and evacuees. Welcome, Liz. Let me begin by saying thank you for all you're doing to help feed first responders and evacuees. It might seem trivial, but let me begin with this. How are you holding up?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we're doing okay. It's just overwhelming trying to sort and organize everything out. But in comparison to other people, we're very lucky.
Yeah. Well, for folks who are unfamiliar, can you tell us a little bit about Fiorelli's Pizza?
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Fiorelli, who is not with me today because he's prepping food to deliver to a family, and I met during COVID working for a hospitality company. We had corporate jobs, and basically in that process and with all the changes that COVID presented, we just started talking about what fulfilled us, and very abstract. Fiorelli Pizza started taking a little bit of shape in our ideals. And then finally, we ended up quitting our jobs, buying the mobile oven, and Jerry at the Cook's Garden invited us to bring it there. We've been there since March of last year.
Yeah, and it's been a wild success. Absolutely delicious pizza, but also extremely notable because when all of this started happening, all the fires started happening and people started really realizing just how impactful it was going to be, Fiorelli's was really one of the first operations that I noticed mobilized to feed first responders and evacuees. Let me begin with this. Where were you and Michael when you started to realize the devastation wrought by the fires was going to be unlike anything we've seen before?
Funny you ask, because we were just leaving a meeting that we had because we were going to do a pop-up at another restaurant in West Hollywood with a very dear, good friend, chef of ours. And as we started getting the reports, Michael was like, how bad do you think this is going to get? By Wednesday morning, Michael contacted me very early and he said, we can't in good faith open or operate on Thursday for normal business. This looks like it's catching very quickly and it's starting to displace people. And it was very much kind of like in that moment, he was like, we'll take care of as many firefighters because we knew that he's like, as we can. And then very quickly, Wednesday night, we then saw the magnitude of it. And Wednesday was when we said that we would be open to feeding first responders on Thursday.
What was that like to have to jump into action so quickly?
I mean, it was a little bit of unprecedented because we really didn't know what we needed to do or who we needed. Michael has a contact with the Venice Fire Department. And that kind of got the ball rolling because he messaged them and they were like, oh, we're super thankful. Thank you very much. And that just kind of led to us getting basically emails and DMs of like where people needed help. And we started seeing very quickly on Thursday, people just showing up at the garden asking for meals. And, we could tell how hard it was for people to just come in and ask or order. And we wanted to make it feel as normal as we could because we knew it was no one knew what was really happening at that time. So we just kind of just told people, here's the menu, order whatever you want, and we'll take care of it.
What was the response like?
Yeah, I think Thursday people were still very like confused and concerned basically about they weren't sure if their house was going to be standing. By Friday afternoon, it was absolutely like devastating. There were people just telling us like we lost everything. And it's incredibly hard to do something like what we're doing when you have people in front of you telling you they lost everything. And then you're turn around and you're like, well, I have some pizzas and some waters and maybe a dessert to give you. It doesn't feel like enough. And, I know that in the moment it's comforting, but these people are facing years of impact that this is going to do to them.
Yeah, no, that's totally a really valid point. But I think it's been really incredible to see just how widespread the support from restaurants has been across the city, really jumping into action. You know, you say, what is it to give a pizza or some dessert to these people, right, when they've lost everything? But the truth is, like, it's incredibly helpful, right, to the firefighters, to the first responders, to everybody, to just make sure that this is something that they don't even have to worry about. I mean, so that's incredibly commendable. I'm curious because obviously, you know, you're a restaurateur, and we've talked a lot on this podcast about how difficult it's been for restaurants over the past couple of years with the economic climate and everything like that. Yet restaurants have been so quick to jump into action. Why do you think so many are so willing to help despite the fact that it might hurt them economically to do so?
I mean, I really do think the people that stay in restaurants in this climate are driven by hospitality, the majority of them. And part of hospitality is extending service.
Yeah.
And this is our only way to provide service in this moment. And Michael said it best. He said, in a moment where we don't know what to do, we can only do what we know.
Yeah.
And that was make food, right? And make pizzas. And that's what we did.
That's really powerful.
But yeah, but I do think that at all the restaurants, we all depend on the community to survive. So when the community needs assistance, I think that the right thing to do is to give back to that community.
Yeah. So you mentioned working with the, Venice Fire Department. Obviously, you guys are located in Venice. I know that one of the sort of questions that a lot of restaurants have had over the last couple of days is, okay, we're willing to make food, but where do we actually donate it? Like, who needs it? How do we get it to the people who need it? How have you guys figured out sort of how to do that, how to connect those dots?
We've been very lucky. We've had a lot of people reach out directly, and we did a delivery at Calabasas because we woke up and I had an email from a family member of a firefighter there that said, hey, I have a family member who's a firefighter, and those guys are in need of water and they need food and they're working around the clock. So we've been guided very specifically. Thankfully, I know not everybody has that ability. But because of those contacts, we've been able to very strategically be able to drop off at different locations. We have done some kind of nominated drops where people say hey, there's this fire station by me. Would you guys mind bringing food to them? And we've done that, and not personally because we do have a lot of volunteers driving, and Michael and I are cooking around the clock at the pizzeria. But the people that are delivering are saying that when it's expected, they know that they're getting all this help and they're super grateful. But when they're not expecting it, and then they're told that somebody wanted to send them food, they're beyond overwhelmed and thankful, because some of these guys are working 12, 16-hour days.
Obviously, diners are out there, whether they have been impacted by the fires or not, and we're all looking out, and we want to be as supportive as possible. What can we do as diners to help Fiorelli's and other restaurants as you guys are out there supporting first responders and evacuees?
What we've been very lucky is, definitely our service is not business as usual right now. We are prioritizing sending food and giving food to the evacuees and sending food to first responders. But we've had people from the community come in, and they'll buy a pizza and then they'll buy a few more pizzas to donate, which is incredibly helpful because it keeps us able to pay our staff to have them come prep, to buy more things, even though suppliers are being incredibly generous right now, and they're also helping us. So it really is a collective. And if people want to help, which I know not everyone can do financially, if they want to help, even, bringing us water, caffeinated drinks, yeah, pretty much anything that is shelf stable, nothing that it's to prepare food because they're so busy that they can't cook themselves and people are evacuated and a lot of people don't have access to kitchen. So I've had to ask people not to bring that kind of food. But that's kind of the support. Michael and I are very committed on every single donation we get, whether it's, items or monetary, that it goes back to the people that need it in form of meals. So if people feel more comfortable rather than sending a cash donation, coming by and actually buying the pizzas, they could do that too.
That's really helpful. Well, Liz, I just wanted to say again on behalf of the LA Food Podcast, but really all diners, like thank you to you and Michael and your entire team for everything you're doing. I mean, it's been so amazing to see just like how restaurants have stepped up into action. And we will be posting links in the show notes to Fiorelli's.
Thank you so much. I do want to give a huge thanks to every single person that's donated. We couldn't do this without those people. And we really say it, both the volunteers that are driving and the people that are donating. It really feels like we're just kind of the middlemen to actually make this happen, because we couldn't do it without the volunteers and without the people that are donating. So a huge, huge shout out to everyone volunteering, putting their time into this. Thank you.
You hear that, people at home? There's jobs for us to do too. We can help the restaurants. So thank you so much for that, for shedding that light and for giving us all those insights, Liz. Wishing you the best of luck as the situation continues.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Liz Gutierrez and Michael Fiorelli for all that they're doing. Our final interview of the day today is with Rudy Espinoza, the Executive Director of Inclusive Action for the City. As Father Sal and I discussed, there are so many folks out there raising money for so many valuable causes. I wanted to shed light on one that perhaps isn't getting as much shine as others, and that is the plight of outdoor workers. Rudy's going to talk to us all about that and what you can do to help. Welcoming back to the LA Food Podcast, it's Executive Director of Inclusive Action for the City, Rudy Espinoza. Rudy, can you remind our listeners who you are and what Inclusive Action for the City does in case they missed the last episode you were on?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Luca. My name is Rudy. I work at Inclusive Action for the City. Inclusive Action is a nonprofit economic justice organization based here in Los Angeles. What makes us special is that we're a CDFI, which means we provide low-interest loans to small businesses, but we also do advocacy. So we do a lot of work in coalition with other partners to change systems and support our communities. We really focus on low-income neighborhoods here in LA County and have done a lot of work with micro-entrepreneurs, street vendors, and other working-class folks here in our great city.
Let me begin with this, Rudy. Obviously, it has been a harrowing week. How are you holding up?
I am holding up okay. I think I feel pretty. There's so much stuff happening, and I think I'm feeling relatively locked in.
Yeah.
I am so lucky to work with the team here at Inclusive Action that when there is a crisis, our response is like, how are we going to help? And so I'm still on that train, man. I'm here to help and I'm locked in. I'm trying to figure out how to be a connector and how to get resources for our people that are being left behind and are impacted by this fire crisis.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all that you and your team are doing. Let me ask you a question. Where were you when it started to become clear that these fires were going to be a really serious deal?
I was in Highland Park. I was at home. I live in Highland Park, close to the Eaton fire. And so the winds last Tuesday night were super scary. We lost power. Our whole neighborhood lost power. And then the next morning I woke up and all the neighbors were outside and talking about the evacuation warnings that they got on their phones. And the sky was black and people started to leave.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of the first morning. And so we left for a couple of days and we were fortunate enough to have a place to go. A lot of people didn't. And so that's kind of the setting of how this thing started for us.
Yeah. And so obviously the first thing people do is rightfully so is take care of themselves and their loved ones. But, knowing you and sort of your impact oriented mindset, I assume it was pretty quick off the jump that you realized that IAC was going to need to jump into action.
Yeah, I think that first day, the team was there was several of our team members who were evacuated. They live on the northeast side. They live in Altadena, and the first course of action was making sure that they were okay. And later that evening, Wednesday, I believe, a couple of us were corresponding of like, hey, what are we going to do? And we might need to sort of step in some way. One of our board members reached out and said, hey, what are we going to do? And then we started to think about how we can help collect resources to help the workers that we were worried about, workers that rely on being outside, that we were all wearing masks and concerned about all the ash coming down. And so it was kind of like within 24 hours that we decided we need to set up a fund. And this is not our first rodeo, unfortunately. We set up a similar fund during the pandemic to support street vendors that were not able to work. And we thought we could do it again.
Yeah.
So Thursday morning, Luca, it was like a series of calls around 8 a.m. in the 8 a.m. hour, calling my leadership and the directors at Inclusive Action of like, hey, what do you think? Can we pull this off? Do we have the capacity to do it? And of course, the colleagues were like, yeah, I think we can do it. Let's put it together. And so a few hours later, we had the fund up, and we have a system in place. And it's been there's been a lot of updates since then. It feels like it's been a long time, but it's only been 5 days.
Yeah. What is time right now, right? So obviously there are a lot of excellent causes for people to support. There's a lot of fundraisers and GoFundMe's going around. For folks who might not understand the need to support outdoor workers during this time, how would you make that case?
Well, there's a lot of people that that live or work in the impacted areas. We were initially concerned about street vendors, gardeners, recyclers. We were doing some emerging work in the last year with recyclers. These are the folks that sort of pick up cans and keep our streets clean. These folks can't work, and they are so vulnerable that one small crisis, one missed day's work, one missed day of income can really put them behind. And so we were just really worried about, man, what are they going to do? And so we saw that there was an emergence of other funds that were growing to support other folks that were impacted. And we thought maybe this is our lane. We would put together this fund and let's support these workers. And so, yesterday there was a study from UCLA's Latino Policy and Politics Initiative that said 17% of Latino communities, their workforce consists of outdoor workers. So it's a pretty big population of folks that rely on an occupation that forces them to be outside.
Yeah, it's no joke. So obviously there's your fund, but how else can folks who are concerned step up to help outdoor workers during this time?
Yes. So we set up this fund. It's the Open Air Worker Relief Fund. We're aiming to provide $500 cash assistance to people. Luke, I want you to know that as of yesterday, today's Tuesday, January 14th, yesterday there was over 4,000 applications for this. So it's like tremendous.
Wow.
We set up a GoFundMe. We have, as of last night, over 750 individual donors, so that's good. We're also discussing having conversations with big institutional donors to see if they could put money into this fund. We got some good news from NBC, Latino Community Foundation, the organization This Is About Humanity invested yesterday. And so we're collecting these resources. 100% of the proceeds is going to go out to these outdoor workers. And so we hope to deploy this by the end of the month. So this is like how rapid it is.
Wow.
We're like trying to figure out how to get this money out before the 31st, because we're thinking people have to pay their rent if they have a place to stay.
Yeah.
But there's so many places to support, like many of us have been supporting GoFundMe's from folks that were impacted, have lost their homes. My suggestion is to keep doing that. If you have bigger dollars and you don't know where to put your money in, there's several trusted intermediaries. The California Community Foundation. This is literally our state's community foundation. So I would hit them up. The United Way, of course, the United Way of Greater Los Angeles, and the Latino Community Foundation. These are organizations that have relations with organizations like us.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know where to put your money, I would go to some of these intermediaries and put it there. Especially if you have bigger pockets and have capacity to give big money.
Yeah, it's really good advice. Obviously, that's really good advice for people looking to donate. Obviously, there are a lot of community leaders, business leaders also sort of wondering what's the right way for us to help? Where do we start? What advice would you give to those folks?
Many of us have been volunteering, going out to the donation centers and the cleanups. Endelon has been doing amazing work in Pasadena. I think that I think everybody wants to contribute, and that's amazing, and we should. And I think that before you make a decision on how, just think about what's most helpful to the people that are impacted. I think people need money right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think people need money. And so if we can figure out how to collect resources and get that money and support these GoFundMe's and put money into these intermediaries, that's good. I think we can do a lot by spreading the word about these things, making phone calls to our friends. Imagine the impact, Luca, of calling 5 friends and say, hey, I'm gonna put $50 into this thing. Can you join me? That's like really powerful. In addition to, if you'd like to go in person to a donation center, I think that right now my feeling is that we need to get people money. People need cash, and the faster we could do it, the better.
Yeah, no, there's definitely something to that. Well, Rudy, we'll include all of the links to the fundraiser in the show notes, as well as to IIC. While I have you, are there any other efforts IIC is involved with at this time that you'd like to let people know about?
Oh man, there's so much. We're a lender, we're a small business lender, so our team is getting ready, has an ambitious goal to get low interest loans to folks this year. And I think right now we're thinking about how we're going to pivot a little bit to support small businesses that are going to try to come back. We need to help them get money, and we're ready for that. There's also a political opportunity here, Luca. And so our advocacy team is working with other partners to think about what systems change we need, because it's a fact that we do not have a strong social safety net in our country and in our region. And this is the new normal. We're going to see these things all the time, unfortunately. And so we have to advocate for better systems that take care of our people. So if there's a fire and somebody loses their home, they don't have to worry about how they're going to pay their bills that they have, or how they're going to put food, getting food for their family. And so there's a political opportunity. And so we're excited about that. And so that's coming, is we're going to be joining forces with other organizations to advocate for more better systems for our people.
And is that going to happen at the city level, the state level, the county level?
It's going to happen at all levels for sure. We're engaging with talks with state leaders and county and city leaders at this time. And we're going to do that in coalition with other mission-aligned groups.
Well, I commend you. I think a lot of people in these situations, and you're seeing a lot of this discourse, but you're seeing a lot of people express anger and frustration and wonder what went wrong. I really applaud the sort of constructive angle that you guys are taking and looking for the opportunity to make sure that next time that this happens, there's a better net in place. Rudy, just want to thank you again for coming on, always making time for us. We'll continue to support your efforts, and be safe.
Thank you, Luca. See ya.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks to Matt Schodorf, Liz Gutierrez, Rudy Espinoza, and of course, Father Saul for making time for us. And thank you to you, dear listener, for taking time out of what has been a truly horrific week to spend some time with us. If you like what you heard today, dear listener, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a rating, a review. Seriously, all that stuff really helps us make our way up the charts on Apple and Spotify. We'll be back next week with another episode, but if you're looking for us in the meantime, you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, and even our website at the LA Countdown. That's TheLaCountdown. You can also find us on Instagram at LA Food Pod. That's LAFOODPOD.